The Awakening. The vast darkness of space held many secrets, but none quite like the one hidden within the Carina Nebula's swirling clouds. Deep within its cosmic veils lay New Haven, humanity's greatest secret and last hope. For 3 millennia, they had waited, watching, and preparing. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Infinity Station, her dark eyes reflecting the dance of distant stars. The station's quantum crystals hummed beneath her feet, channeling dark matter energy in ways the Galactic Council had never imagined possible. "Commander," Lieutenant Marcus Rivera's voice broke through her contemplation. "The final tests are complete. Project Eclipse is ready." Sarah turned from the window, her expression carved from years of careful planning. At 45, she carried the weight of humanity's future in every decision, every command. The station's soft blue lighting caught the silver streaks in her black hair, earned not from age, but from decades of working with dark matter energy. "Show me," she ordered, following Marcus to the central command hub. The room buzzed with activity as hundreds of technicians and officers worked at their stations, each monitoring different aspects of humanity's master plan. Holographic displays filled the air with streams of data, charts, and real-time calculations. The centerpiece of the room was a massive 3-dimensional projection of their dark matter drive. It was beautiful in its complexity, a feat of engineering that had taken centuries to perfect. The Galactic Council had used similar technology to destroy Earth, but humanity had taken it further, unlocked its true potential. "The containment field is stable," Marcus reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "Energy output exceeding all previous tests by 300%. We can now harness enough power to punch through the Council's strongest defensive shields." Sarah studied the data scrolling past her eyes. "And the stealth systems. Perfect invisibility, Commander. The dark matter absorption rate is at 99.99%. We're virtually undetectable." The news should have brought a smile to her face, but Sarah had learned long ago to temper hope with caution. She remembered the stories passed down through generations, tales of Earth's final days, of the Council's betrayal, of the few thousand humans who had managed to escape into deep space. "Admiral Zhao needs to see this," she said finally. "Call an emergency meeting of the Haven Council." Within an hour, the 12 members of humanity's governing body had assembled in the secure chamber. Admiral James Zhao, the oldest among them at 70, sat at the head of the table. His weathered face bore the marks of someone who had dedicated his entire life to a single purpose. 3,000 years, he began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. 3,000 years we've waited, hidden, evolved. The Council thinks they erased us from existence, that their cleansing was complete. He paused, looking at each person in the room. They were wrong. Sarah stepped forward, activating the room's holographic display. "Project Eclipse is ready," she announced. "We've perfected the dark matter drive technology. Our ships can now move undetected through Council space, and our weapons can penetrate their strongest defenses." The room erupted in murmurs. Admiral Zhao raised his hand for silence. "The question before us is not whether we strike, but when and where." "The Arcturus Defense Network," Sarah suggested, pulling up a detailed map of Council space. "It's their primary early warning system. If we can disable it, they'll be blind," completed Dr. Emily Santos, their chief scientist. "But more importantly, they'll know we're back. The psychological impact alone will be devastating." Zhao nodded. "They've built their entire civilization on the belief that they successfully eliminated the human threat. Imagine their terror when they realize we've not only survived but evolved beyond their comprehension." Sarah touched a control, and the hologram shifted to show their fleet. 500 ships, each powered by dark matter drives, each capable of destroying a small moon. They were beautiful and terrible, humanity's answer to 3,000 years of exile. "There's something else," she said, her voice dropping slightly. "Our long-range scouts have detected unusual activity in the outer rim." Several species that were once loyal to the Council are showing signs of rebellion. They've seen the Council's true nature over the millennia. Zhao leaned forward, interest sparking in his eyes. Potential allies. Potentially. The Nexeri, the Drachnid, even some Zalaxian colonies, all of them have suffered under Council rule. They remember that humanity once stood against the Council's tyranny. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reshaping the galaxy, about finally bringing down an empire that had ruled through fear and destruction for too long. Admiral Zhou stood slowly, his cybernetic leg whirring softly. Then it's decided. Commander Chen, you will lead the first strike. Target the Arcturus network. Show them that humanity isn't just back. We're back to stay. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of history settling on her shoulders. When do we launch? On the next lunar eclipse, Zhao answered. Let them remember the day darkness fell across their empire. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah returned to the observation deck. Behind her, New Haven hummed with activity, preparing for war. Before her, the nebula's gases swirled in cosmic patterns, hiding them from the galaxy's eyes one last time. 3,000 years of waiting were about to end. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy why they had been feared, why the Council had tried so desperately to destroy them. This time, there would be no surprise attack, no overwhelming force against an unsuspecting planet. This time, humanity was ready. Project Phoenix. The Arcturus defense network stretched across 3 solar systems, a web of interconnected sensors, and automated defense platforms that had protected Council space for millennia. Its quantum arrays could detect a ship's engine signature from 50 light-years away. At least, that's what the Council believed. They never imagined someone could bend dark matter itself to move unseen through their defenses. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, humanity's most advanced warship. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence, each monitoring their stations as the fleet moved through Council space. The dark matter drive hummed beneath their feet, its energy signature completely masked from detection. Multiple Council vessels detected. Lieutenant Rivera reported from his tactical station. 3 heavy cruisers and their escort fleet. They're conducting standard patrol patterns. Sarah watched the holographic display as the Council ships passed within kilometers of their position, completely oblivious to the human fleet's presence. The Council's arrogance had always been their weakness. They believed their technology was supreme, their defenses impenetrable. Status of the strike teams? Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. All teams report ready, Commander. Captain Diana Wong responded from her station. Strike Team Alpha is in position near the primary control hub. Beta and Gamma teams are aligned with their secondary targets. Sarah nodded, checking the mission clock. In exactly 17 minutes, the eclipse would begin on New Haven. It was more than just symbolic timing. The dark matter drives reached peak efficiency during astronomical alignments. All ships, maintain position, she ordered. Prepare to execute Operation Phoenix on my mark. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. Sarah thought of Admiral Zhu and the Haven Council, waiting back at the colony for news of their first strike. She thought of Earth, of the histories passed down through generations, of the worlds they'd watched from hiding as the Council spread its influence across the galaxy. Eclipse beginning on New Haven, Rivera announced. Dark matter drive efficiency at maximum. Sarah stood, her voice clear and commanding. All ships, execute Operation Phoenix. Strike teams, you have go for insertion. The human fleet sprang into action with practiced precision. Strike teams Beta and Gamma launched their attacks first, targeting the network's power distribution nodes. Their weapons, powered by concentrated dark matter, cut through the Council's shields like they didn't exist. On the primary target, Strike Team Alpha began their infiltration. Led by Major Elena Santos, they moved through the station's corridors like ghosts, their dark matter-enhanced stealth suits rendering them invisible to both sensors and organic eyes. Control room secured. Elena's voice crackled through the comm. Beginning upload of the Phoenix virus. The virus was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, designed to not just disable the network, but to turn it against its masters. It would use the Council's own systems to broadcast a message across their entire territory. Humanity had returned. Multiple Council ships changing course, Rivera reported. They've detected the attacks on the secondary nodes. Right on schedule, Sarah replied. Launch fighters. Keep them occupied while Alpha Team completes their mission. Human fighters streamed from the larger ships, engaging the surprised Council vessels. The Council crews had no time to process what they were seeing. Ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that ignored their shields, fighters that moved with impossible speed and precision. Phoenix virus uploaded, Elena reported. Beginning final sequence. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. All ships prepare for Phase 2. Elena, get your team out of there. The next few minutes were chaos as the virus took hold. Throughout Council space, communication systems began broadcasting a single message in every known language. Remember Earth. Defense platforms turned on their own ships. Sensor arrays went dark. Council reinforcements incoming, Rivera warned. Multiple heavy warships detected. They're too late, Sarah said, watching as the primary control hub's reactor began to overload. All ships, execute emergency jump. Return to Rally Point Alpha. The human fleet vanished moments before the control hub exploded, the detonation cascading through the network's quantum links to destroy every connected facility. In a single strike, humanity had blinded the Council's early warning system and announced their return to the galaxy. Hours later, Sarah stood before the Haven Council, delivering her report. The holographic displays showed the extent of their victory, the complete destruction of the Arcturus network, the chaos spreading through Council space, the confusion and fear in their communications. The Council will respond with everything they have, Admiral Zhao noted, studying the tactical displays. They'll try to find us, to finish what they started 3,000 years ago. Let them try, Sarah replied. We're not the same humans they try to exterminate. We're stronger, more advanced, and most importantly, we know their weaknesses. And the other species? Dr. Santos asked. The ones showing signs of rebellion. Sarah brought up new data streams showing increased activity in the outer rim. They're watching. They saw what we did to the network. More importantly, they heard our message. Some have already begun reaching out through encrypted channels. Admiral Zhou nodded slowly. Then Phase 2 begins. Commander Chen, prepare the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just seeking revenge. We're offering liberation. As the meeting concluded, Sarah returned to the Phoenix. The ship's dark matter drive pulsed with power, ready for their next mission. The Council had thought they were being prudent when they tried to destroy humanity. Instead, they had forced them to evolve, to become something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The war for the galaxy's future had begun, and humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. The Council's reckoning. High Counselor Vex Thor's crystalline hands trembled as he reviewed the damage reports. The massive chamber of the Galactic Council was in chaos, with representatives from 100 species arguing and demanding explanations. The destruction of the Arcturus network had shaken the very foundation of their civilization. Impossible, he whispered, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the holographic displays. They were eliminated. We made certain of it. First Speaker Lyra, a being of pure energy contained within an advanced environmental suit, moved closer to Vex Thor. The evidence is undeniable. The dark matter signatures, the precision of the attacks, the message broadcast across our networks. Humanity has returned. How? Demanded Counselor Kraz, his scaled skin darkening with anger. We destroyed their world. We erased their civilization. Nothing could have survived. The chamber fell silent as Admiral Thorn entered. The massive Chronaxian military commander's carapace bore the marks of countless battles, but now there was something new in his four eyes. Fear. "Honorable Council," he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard speech. "The attack on the Arcturus network was just the beginning. We've detected similar energy signatures in the outer rim. Multiple colonies have gone dark. The humans aren't just back. They're insurgent." On the central display, footage from the attack plate. Council ships, their supposedly impenetrable shields useless against weapons that bent the fabric of space itself. Strange vessels appearing from nowhere, striking with impossible precision, then vanishing again. "They've mastered dark matter technology," Lyra observed, her energy form pulsing with concern. "The same power we used to destroy their world. They've turned it against us." Vexthor rose from his seat, his crystalline form catching the light. "How many ships do we have ready to deploy?" 70% of the fleet is combat ready," Admiral Thorne reported. "But without the Arcturus network, we're fighting blind. They could strike anywhere, at any time. Then we protect everything." Kraz shouted, slamming his scaled fist on the console. "Deploy the fleet in defensive formations around all major systems." "They can't possibly." He was interrupted by a priority alert. On the main display, new reports flooded in. The Nexari colonies in the Outer Rim had declared independence from the Council. The Drachnid Empire was mobilizing its forces. Even the normally subservient Salaxians were showing signs of rebellion. "They're inspiring others," Lyra realized, her energy form dimming slightly. "Species we've suppressed for millennia. See humanity's return as a sign. They're rising up." Admiral Thorne's tactical display showed the growing chaos. The humans are coordinating with them, sharing technology, strategic information. Every hour we delay, more systems fall into open revolt. "Then we eliminate them again," Kraz declared. "We did it once, we can." "Can we?" Vexthor's quiet question cut through the chamber. "Look at what they've accomplished in hiding. While we grew complacent, they evolved. They took our greatest weapon and mastered it in ways we never imagined possible." The council chamber erupted in arguments again. Some called for immediate military action, others for negotiations, and a few simply wanted to flee to the furthest reaches of space. In the midst of the chaos, First Speaker Lyra accessed the historical archives. The holographic display showed Earth as it had been 3,000 years ago, a beautiful blue world teeming with life. The next image showed its destruction, the dark matter wave that had erased it from existence. "We thought we were protecting the galaxy," she said softly. "We saw their potential for violence, their rapid technological advancement, their unpredictability. We feared what they might become." She gestured at the current tactical displays. "And in trying to prevent that future, we created something far more dangerous." "What are you suggesting?" Vexthor asked. "That we made a mistake. Not just an ethical one, but a tactical one. We united humanity in ways we never imagined possible. We forced them to evolve, to advance, to become exactly what we feared. But worse, we gave them a reason to hate us." Admiral Thorne's tactical displays updated again. More systems going dark, more colonies declaring independence, more ships vanishing from sensors, presumably destroyed by weapons they couldn't detect or defend against. "The humans are offering protection to any system that breaks from the Council," he reported. "Their dark matter technology makes our blockades useless. We can't stop the spread of rebellion." Vexthor studied the displays, his crystalline form reflecting the chaos unfolding across the galaxy. "Then we have only one choice. Summon the Emergency Council, all species, all representatives. If we're to survive this, we need to understand exactly what we're facing." As the chamber emptied, First Speaker Lyra remained, her energy form pulsing with troubled thoughts. On the display, another human message was broadcasting across captured networks. "Remember Earth. Remember what they did. Remember why we fight." The galaxy was changing. The carefully maintained order of the past 3,000 years was crumbling. And somewhere out there, humanity was watching, waiting, planning their next strike. The Council had tried to prevent a future they feared. Instead, they had created one far more terrifying than they could have imagined. Alliance of the Forgotten. The Great Hall of New Haven had never hosted so many different species. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the head of the circular chamber, surrounded by representatives from dozens of civilizations that had suffered under Council rule. The air was thick with tension and possibility. Nexiri Ambassador Catal, her crystalline form shimmering with internal light, stepped forward. For centuries, the Council suppressed our technological advancement, claiming it was for the galaxy's protection. Now we see the truth. They feared any species that might challenge their power. Just as they feared humanity, Sarah agreed, activating the central holographic display. It showed the latest tactical map of Council space, with nearly a third of its former territories now declared independent. But fear is no longer enough to maintain their control. The Drachnid war chief, Zorax, moved his massive scaled form closer to the display. Your dark matter technology could turn the tide of this war completely. With it, we could strike at the Council's heart directly. That's exactly what we intend to do, Sarah replied, zooming in on the Council's capital system. But we need more than just technology. We need unity. The chamber hummed with translator devices as dozens of species discussed among themselves. Some had been traditional enemies, forced to compete for resources under Council rule. Others had never interacted before, isolated by artificial boundaries created to maintain control. Dr. Emily Santos stepped forward, her research team's data floating around her. We've adapted our dark matter drives for compatibility with your ships. The Council used our differences to keep us apart. We'll use them to make us stronger. The display shifted to show the combined fleet formations. Nexiri crystal ships, their natural ability to channel energy making them perfect for dark matter weapons. Drachnid dreadnoughts, their tough organic hulls now enhanced with human stealth technology. Xylaxian interceptors, their unmatched speed combined with dark matter drives making them nearly impossible to track. The Council believes they created their worst nightmare by forcing humanity to evolve. Sarah continued, but they were wrong. Their true nightmare is seeing all of us stand together. A soft chime interrupted the meeting. Lieutenant Rivera's hologram appeared, his expression urgent. Commander, we're detecting massive fleet movements in Council space. They're consolidating their forces around their capital. They know we're coming. War Chief Zorax growled, his scales shifting color with excitement. Let them prepare. Catal's crystalline form pulsed with determination. They've never faced anything like our combined strength. Sarah studied the tactical displays, watching the Council fleet movements. They were desperate, pulling ships from vital defensive positions to protect their capital. Just as planned. We attack in 3 phases, she announced, the display updating to show their battle strategy. First, the Xylaxian fleet will launch raids on their remaining industrial centers. While they're distracted, Drachnid forces will engage their main fleet head-on. And the humans? Ambassador Catal asked. Sarah's expression hardened. We'll do what we do best. Appear where they least expect us and strike where they're weakest. Our combined fleet will hit their capital from multiple vectors simultaneously. They won't be able to defend against attacks they can't detect coming from every direction. The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreements in dozens of languages. Species that had once been bitter enemies were now unified in purpose. The Council's greatest weapon, fear, had become its undoing. There's something else. Dr. Santos interrupted, her expression serious. Our deep space sensors have detected unusual energy readings from the Council capital. They're trying to replicate our dark matter technology. Can they succeed? War Chief Zorax demanded. Not in time, Sarah assured them. But it shows they're desperate. Desperate enemies are dangerous enemies. The tactical display updated again, showing more Council ships moving to defensive positions. They were focusing everything on protecting their capital, leaving other systems vulnerable. The Council's fear was making them predictable. All forces, prepare for battle stations, Sarah ordered. We launch in 6 hours. Today, we show the galaxy that the future belongs to the free. As the representatives departed to prepare their forces, Sarah remained in the chamber with Dr. Santos and Lieutenant Rivera. The holographic display showed their combined fleet, thousands of ships from dozens of species, all unified under a single cause. 3,000 years ago, the Council tried to erase humanity because they feared what we might become, Sarah said softly. They never imagined we'd become something far more powerful, a symbol of hope for every species they've oppressed. The Council's watching their empire crumble, Rivera noted, studying the tactical feeds. They've lost control of the narrative. Every system that breaks free inspires 10 more to resist. And after we take their capital, Dr. Santos asked, what then? Sarah looked at the display, at the millions of beings counting on them to succeed. Then we do what humanity does best. We build something better. Not an empire ruled by fear, but an alliance strengthened by our differences. The chamber's lights dimmed as the fleet began its final preparations. Throughout New Haven and across dozens of allied worlds, ships were powering up their dark matter drives. The Council had spent 3 millennia building their perfect order through fear and suppression. They were about to learn that the galaxy was ready for chaos, ready for change, ready for freedom, and humanity would lead the way. Legacy of Earth. The Council capital world of Centrum hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline towers reaching toward the stars. Around it, the largest fleet ever assembled in Council history stood guard. But they weren't watching the right direction. They never did. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Phoenix's bridge as the combined fleet of humanity and their allies emerged from dark matter space simultaneously at 12 different vectors. The Council's defensive grid lit up with thousands of alarm signals as ships appeared seemingly out of nowhere. All ships, weapons free, Sarah commanded. Execute Operation Legacy. The space around Centrum erupted in chaos. Silaxian interceptors streaked through the Council's formations, their enhanced speed making them nearly impossible to target. Drachnid dreadnoughts engaged head-on, their organic hulls now reinforced with dark matter shields that absorbed enemy fire. Council fleet is responding, Lieutenant Rivera reported. They're splitting their forces to counter multiple attack vectors. Just as predicted, Sarah nodded. Signal the Nexari. Begin Phase 2. The crystalline ships of the Nexari fleet activated their newly integrated dark matter weapons. Beams of concentrated spatial distortion cut through Council vessels like they were made of paper. The Council's supposedly impenetrable shields meant nothing against weapons that bent reality itself. But the Council wasn't going down without a fight. Their capital ships launched waves of fighters, filling space with energy weapons fire. They had numbers on their side, and desperation made them dangerous. Multiple impacts on decks 3 through 7, Captain Wong reported. Shield integrity holding at 80%. Sarah studied the tactical display. The Council's fleet was massive, but their formation was rigid, predictable. They fought like an empire that hadn't faced a real challenge in millennia. Signal War Chief Zorax, she ordered. Execute the hammer and anvil. The Drachnid fleet suddenly pulled back, appearing to retreat. The Council ships pursued, exactly as planned. As they moved forward, human vessels decloaked behind them, catching the Council fleet in a devastating crossfire. Commander, Dr. Santos's voice cut through the battle chatter. I'm detecting massive energy readings from the surface. They're powering up something big. The tactical display shifted to show a massive energy signature building in Centrum's capital city. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized the pattern. They're trying to use a dark matter wave, she realized, like they did on Earth. But the energy readings are unstable, Santos warned. They don't understand the technology. If that wave detonates, it'll tear apart the entire system, Sarah finished. taking everyone with it. A new signal cut through their communications. High Counselor Vex Thor's crystalline face appeared on their screens. "Surrender now," he demanded, "or we'll destroy everything. We did it before. We'll do it again." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The council was desperate, cornered, just like they'd wanted. But this wasn't how it was supposed to end. "Dr. Santos," she said quietly, "can we contain a dark matter wave?" "Theoretically," Santos replied. "If we create a containment field using all our ship's drives in sync, but we'd have to get close. Too close." Sarah nodded. "Signal all ships. New coordinates being transmitted. Form up on the Phoenix." "Commander?" Rivera looked concerned. "That'll put us between the Council fleet and the planet." "Exactly." Sarah opened a channel to all Allied ships. "This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about proving we're better than they are. That humanity's legacy isn't just about survival or power. It's about protecting life, even the lives of our enemies." The Allied fleet moved into position, their dark matter drives humming in sync. Below them, the Council's weapon continued to build power, its unstable energy threatening to tear reality apart. "All ships," Sarah commanded. "Divert all power to containment fields. Create a barrier between that weapon and the rest of the system." Energy fields sprang to life between the ships, forming a massive web of containment barriers. The Council fleet held their fire, confused by their enemies' actions. "Commander," Santos warned, "wave detonation in 30 seconds." Sarah opened a channel to Vex Thor. 3,000 years ago, you destroyed our world because you feared what we might become. You thought we would bring chaos to your perfect order. And you were right. We did, but not in the way you imagined. The dark matter wave erupted from Centrum's surface, a tide of destructive energy that would have scored the system clean of life. Instead, it met the contained field created by the combined fleet. "Containment holding," Santos reported. "The wave is being absorbed into our drives." Through the viewport, Sarah watched as the wave's energy was channeled and dispersed harmlessly into space. In that moment, humanity didn't just show their power, they showed their wisdom. "Your weapon is neutralized," Sarah transmitted to Centrum. "Your fleet is surrounded. But we're not here to destroy you. We're here to show you what humanity really is." The battle fell silent as Sarah's words echoed across all channels. "We're here to build something new. Not an empire ruled by fear, but an alliance strengthened by understanding. You tried to destroy us because you feared our potential for violence. Instead, you helped us realize our potential for growth, for unity, for peace." One by one, Council ships began powering down their weapons. On Centrum's surface, the unstable dark matter reactor was shut down. The war was over, not with destruction, but with an act of mercy. Hours later, Sarah stood in the Council chamber, surrounded by representatives from both sides. The peace talks would be long and complicated, but they had taken the first step. 3,000 years ago, Earth was destroyed. She addressed the assembly. But Earth's true legacy lies on, not in revenge or power, but in our ability to rise above hatred, to learn from our past, and to build a better future, together. As she spoke, the first rays of Centrum's sun broke through the chamber's windows, illuminating representatives from 100 species, former enemies now faced with the challenge and opportunity of peace. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps that had been Earth's legacy all along.